welcome to Cartoonist Kayfabe. My name's Ed Piskor.
I'm Jim Rugg.
And I'm Tom Scholey.
And Halloween is upon us, so we got to do at least a little bit of Halloween type stuff. Why not take a look at the Bernie Wrightson Artifact Edition, big sample of his works from DC Comics, scanned from the original artwork. But first, Jimmy, what do you have?
Street Angel, Deadliest Girl Alive, complete with a Halloween story packed in the middle of that, along with about 7 other complete stories, available wherever you buy comics now, bookstores, comic shops, or online. You can also join me on patreon.com/JimRugg, where you can see original art from Street Angel. You can see scripts, process, how I make Street Angel, Plain Janes, Octobriana, and all the other comics that I make. You can also download out-of-print comics and zines. Patreon.com/JimRugg.
The Thing is a big orange rotting pumpkin. So, I mean, there's your Halloween tie-in for the Fantastic Four. Grand design. It's the whole story of the Fantastic Four in one volume. You know, all their ups and downs and their ignominious end. And I have Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. It's the story of Jack Kirby's life from start to finish, told from his point of view, drawn in pencil, the same tool that Jack Kirby used throughout his career to tell all the wonderful stories we know him for. You can also check out my Patreon. Go to patreon.com, search Tom Scholey, and my YouTube channel, Total Recall Show.
Red Room Comics, Murder on the Dark Web for Fun and Profit. Need we say more? The trade paperback, The Antisocial Network, is going to be hitting. It's going to be hitting stands November 9th, 2021. If you pre-ordered this comic, you should get it by the holidays. Get it at your local comic shop when it comes out November 9th. I implore retailers to order heavy because Amazon bought half our print run, man. So if you can't find it in your comic shop, if you didn't order early from Fantagraphics, go to Amazon, scoop it up there. Collects the 4 issues of the Antisocial Network, and dozens of extra pages and lots of extra artwork is included. We're going to do a big video for this when it gets closer to the time. And if you want to keep up with Red Room, continuing the comics with Trigger Warning, which is going to be the next season of issues, and serializing that on Patreon. 3 books get you the archive there. These links are in my link tree in the description below this video. Fellas, when I think of American comic book horror, Bernie Wrightson is probably at the top of that list, man, alongside some of the greats of EC Comics. He brings some of that EC sort of energy and is considered to be one of the great inkslingers of the big two, which works well when it comes to horror and lighting. And through the embarrassment of riches of IDW's Artist Edition program, got over 100 pages worth of his artwork to look at within these covers. So thankful to find this thing. I've been looking for this. Like, you snooze, you lose when it comes to the Artist Editions. Mm-hmm. And this came out probably maybe at a time when I was still like pinching pennies, man. But I just couldn't get my hands on it at the time. Nah, it's sort of newish. This thing went fast. I couldn't find it on Amazon, eBay for even a little markup. And it just so happened to be at Copacetic Comics one day, man.
World's greatest comic shop.
Somebody turned it in and got like a fresh copy because there's like right here there's a little divot. And I get it, man. If you spend $130 on a book, you want it to be pristine. Well, guess what? I'll pay $80 for one with a little divot in it.
This is a great end pages too to show off those ink chops, Ed, that you mentioned at the opening. You know, we've all heard the stories about him getting these, taking his brush and twirling out the end to get that razor sharp point on a paper towel so he can make these perfectly feathered lines.
Yeah, so, like 2 lines per
on display, very well there.
Dip.
Ed, you're talking about the EC vibe, and in those end papers, I see like an amalgam of all the EC artists like merged together.
Yeah, you see some Jack Davis there. You clearly see some Ghastly Graham in these faces and hands. Some wood when it comes to the lighting. Absolutely. And as you can see, this is an artifact edition, so there's like a sample of a bunch of stuff. Obviously, his principal work is Swamp Thing, and its focus is heavy on that. But he was very well known in those like House of Mysteries, House of Secrets type books. Does great work in those pages.
Very underrated, those comics, when you're digging.
Yeah. Scoop one up, man. You're going to get a Toth story. You're going to get like a Alex Nino. You're going to get
Frank Thorne's in some of them. A lot of good stuff. These are great.
You know, interesting techniques with the depth of field where he's hatching in these faraway trees, sells you on the rain. That's always a cool trick.
This may not be his handiwork, but even the lettering there looks like it's some kind of grease pencil or some dry media to make that lettering.
Using some white to cut through some thickets right here. He is an artist that I think he can't hide that there are things that he wants to draw on the page and there are things that he is not that interested in. I've always gotten that sense with his work. And these would be kind of like the examples of like, let me just get to my bog monster.
Yeah. Not bad though. The low angle there and then the weird head angle. I think both of those are pretty good. And he is tilting the camera, at least let us know that we're in some creepy area.
Oh, he wants
this
to draw
is your Graham
this.
Ingles though. When I see the moss hanging down, that's where I go with that.
Yeah, no, he's into this.
Yeah, the gnarly trees and stuff, super big time. This is that Dorn style that we were talking about a couple of episodes ago. That kind of, it's not a hatching, but it's some sort of texture.
Yeah, especially on the plains. Especially on plains.
Yeah, you can almost picture that rocky basement, that rough wall.
And you just like lay this next to like a 70s DC comic, a 70s Marvel comic, and it just stands right out.
Oh, totally.
Look at that. That's beautiful. Man, the EC stuff is such a great comparison, like having your double lighting where that light's hitting Swamp Thing's brow and then feathering out on the other direction.
He really focuses on light. He tries to abide by light source. You know, a lot of these cartoonists back in the day, they actually would. You know, like it gets away from us a lot of times, man. But he's an artist, and he thinks about stuff. He lights objects and studies them to try to like approximate the lighting and things. When he was doing Frankenstein, he sculpted the Frankenstein head and shined it with lights. So he's thinking about that kind of stuff. Wow.
That's a stunning page. I like the two-headed figure.
Yeah, these Unmen guys, these are like these Ghastly Graham characters that were on the cover to that first Haunted Fear that I ever bought. Like, there were guys built out of hands and all kinds of weird shit.
Do you think Silvestri is looking at this whenever he did the Wolverine Crucified issue?
Oh, totally. I mean, like, Wrightson was like, you know, one of the founding fathers that like that generation's looking at.
And everything's on here too, from all the monsters to like your castle in the background.
This is gothic horror, man.
When I first learned about Wrightson, I thought he was an EC guy. You know, he just kind of like captures that.
Check this out, man. Playing around with some screens, like basically using all of your like remnants to some kind of effect.
Yeah, because you're not going to get too much use out of those patterns. So
Right.
it's like, okay,
Check
I got
out
these.
What he's doing with them too. Like this is that vertical, horizontal, parallel lines, but he's rotating them a little bit. I thought at first it was that cyclical pattern. But it's not. It's him just kind of like rotating those around for each strip of the ceiling.
Just keeping you uneasy. And just look at this feathering, man. He's the guy who said that, like, this DC paper, shit. It's garbage.
Yeah, he's putting it to the test.
He would know.
Yeah, you're just being dragged into hell.
It's damn near Cabinet of Dr. Caligari with just all of these
Yeah, it's
shapes,
really strong.
all of these angles, and he's still thinking about the lighting on each of these. He's one of those guys that really sold me on the idea of, like, you know, you see the three planes, and like there's an area of white, black, gray, and we'll see a lot of examples of him playing around with that kind of stuff.
You know, we recently had the conversation about draw something cool looking on every page, and it feels like these pages are great examples of that.
Yeah. Patchwork man.
Yeah, no surprise that he's going to go on to do a Frankenstein book.
Yeah, absolutely. Or work with Stephen King.
And there's your end page on the page rather than the blow up. Yeah, you can see Stephen King just, eating his heart out there.
Yeah. Using this hatching, like, going with the form, you know, imagining, you know, the shape of these muscles and conforming the hatching to go along with that, to really sell you on the 3D of these
Also
characters.
good hands.
I like
Not an easy thing to do, and you see those knuckles wrapping around.
I like seeing this in its like actual size, and then versus the thing, because like you're so much more aware of the mark making in the large one, and then in this the illusion of what he's trying to present.
This stuff feels
there.
very inspiring. I can imagine a generation of guys, the Bissettes and Veaches and guys seeing this stuff and just, marking on their psyche.
Cutting in with white.
That's
white
pretty
with a
interesting.
pen. Like, good luck trying to find a good medium to use with a pen.
Yeah, I'll say. Makes for a beautiful piece.
And then he's using his hatch marks like in black ink up there, and just creating like such thick atmosphere.
Yeah, more of the white here to same effect. Have some like fog mist there around the base.
So cool. So wet.
So is Orlando inking this? I saw his name in the credits on this issue.
I think he's editor. I'm pretty sure that it's all.
Okay, so he's not there in like an art capacity.
No, this is Wrightson lines for sure.
Man, look at how that's constructed.
Yeah, it's great, man. And it's really like, he knows how to draw and not fake the perspectives and stuff, so it really feels like it's of the same piece. That's borrowed from Dracula, that Bela Lugosi.
This is fun. It's almost like film noir, except we're in like this crazy medieval house or something. Ooh,
I like seeing the pencils.
yeah. That's their side of the pencil, blocking in big shapes.
He's the guy inking it, man, so he just needs to do some indicators for himself. And look at how simple that is.
Oh, man.
That's amazing.
That werewolf.
This is such a cool contrast between your fine pen lines and like those solid blacks in the foreground. Wow.
And then just pushing it back even further.
And it's like, this is like almost completely removed from just like comic books. Like this is in line with comic book aesthetic. This is like something else.
Look at the beautiful lighting on her face and then his near silhouette in the foreground. That's a great panel. A lot of good stuff on that page.
I wonder if he posed Wheezy for her.
This is like a lot of the detail that is just going to get lost in the printing process.
That's
like
true.
that
None
might
of
just be a
that's coming
solid
through.
black.
Yeah, you wonder if he abandons that kind of detailed hatching once he sees these things printed and is just like, oh, give up. That's unbelievable. Just unbelievable. The amount of texture that he's putting on that page. And all kinds of texture. The wood beams, the rocks and stuff, obviously.
Yeah, you
That
see the
werewolf
piece, the shadow of the chains. Like you could see the Frankenstein stuff.
Yeah, it's pointing the way towards his Frankenstein. Like it's just like you got to eliminate certain things, and then you're there.
I feel like that's an artist edition that was like being talked about for the past 10 years, man.
I've had conversations about it.
I'm saying that it was in the works.
That's what I'm saying too.
Yeah, he could sell that wetness.
It feels like a different approach every page. Like this could almost be a different artist.
He has a lot of tools, and he'll do it on the same page. Like between these two images, two very different approaches. That stuff where he like opens it up and it's just all hatching and grays. It looks amazing in this original art form, and like you said, Tom, a lot of that I bet was lost in the printing.
This is that stuff I struggle with so much, man. How do you draw so much grass and bog and trees and stuff?
Yeah, mushrooms growing on the side of trees.
Yeah, that are well lit.
It's the bullshit of these artist editions. Like I thought, we're gonna see all the secrets once we
Right,
get
yeah,
this
it's
stuff.
not like crap.
It
Yeah.
doesn't make it any easier. Like I'm no closer to doing any of this stuff.
Now this is a cool thing, man. We got the sort of pencils with the actual page, so that we can see the choices that were made and
Yeah, the
how
way
it translates.
taped up, I wonder if he's like doing like a light, like inking on a light box on a separate sheet of paper, like over that.
Yeah, those pages did look like two separate pieces, and that's why they would have the pencils maybe now.
Yeah.
To be able to show them both. There's more of these lines following your forms.
Yeah, and just like looking at it in this gray, like in this black and white, like that lighting is exceptional.
It makes me very sad that we've lost that kind of lighting.
And he's kind of like he's overdoing it, but like in horror, overdoing it is like 100%, appropriate.
Horror, comic book, superhero, like
Right, yeah,
all
you're
of it.
right, you're right.
Excess, all of
Yeah,
it.
excess.
The excess is what I celebrate. Even the
Movies.
emotional expressions on everybody, it's like everything's a 10.
Yeah, it does feel like heading towards like Michael Golden, and it feels related to manga, but I feel like he's maybe arriving at some of the same conclusions, just like independently of manga.
That's badass.
Yeah.
It's a really cool drawing, but it's not like the most dynamic. Like you could imagine how Kirby would do something like that.
I like the little lettering flourishes. You know, the outline of the balloon, the outline of the caption, the lettering sound effects. Very nice. Makes for a good page.
You gotta have your
Those are so weird.
your ad for
I always
Lucky
wonder,
Charms.
like, how does this work? How
In terms
would
of
you
payment?
Get, yeah, well, no. In terms of like, would you get a note in the script where it's like, okay, hey, we sold one third ad on that page? What?
I think most of those stories just, it's not like it would be an interior. It's like they always end with the ad thing. So I think that was just, they knew it. His people are always like stuck in a certain time period. You know, they always got like old hair.
Yeah, like Dark Shadows or like
Yeah,
70s,
exactly.
you know, Barnabas Collins, turtlenecks.
You know, that's almost like the Wallywood spaceship kind of approach, but just this little clock shop.
Talk about killing yourself on a Swamp Thing. You know,
That's his
issue
baby.
6 of Swamp Thing.
Well,
That's
and
his baby,
Think
man.
about it. Like, you're doing comics, you're getting paid for it. It's like it's all for your own purposes. Like why not make exactly the kind of thing you want to make?
Well, here's why: no royalties, and I mean, like, look at what he's pouring in there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you think of what's acceptable, and again, he's not getting rewarded for that.
Sure, but like you are though. Like, you're getting rewarded because you made something super cool and you got better in the process.
like you're also like going to be wooed by Hollywood.
Yeah,
and
he
do
turned out
so
fine,
like,
you know, yeah.
So like this is a portfolio piece for the next. You know, I don't abide by just
yeah, it's not like, oh, I got the meter running.
I like this
Exactly.
drawing a lot. We haven't seen too much of this kind of line work. You know, a little bit looser.
almost looks like just these two pieces. I'm thinking of like Kevin O'Neill,
Yeah, no, spot
Nemesis
on,
the
spot on.
Warlock or something, like that era.
Yeah, it's almost like these are a portfolio because it's like, okay, here's me doing this technique, here's me doing this technique, here, you know, and these are like iconic. Like any
Yeah.
book about Batman or whatever, that image is being reprinted in it.
Another one of those great lab shots.
So much done in white, not necessarily using white media, but I'm just saying like white lines. You know, like we'll see Charles Burns use a lot of like black background with just like white lines to sell you on what you're looking at.
Does a good Batman.
Yeah, love his Batman. Yeah, doing the thing.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's this Kirby tribute.
It's so dumb.
Ooh, that's a nice treat.
You could see like the Vigil bootleg Batmans that we have, man. Like some inspiration right there.
Yeah, huge amount of Vigil inspiration, I think.
And look at this; it is kind of like, you know, sort of standard comics, and then it becomes like a Wrightson in the inking.
It does make me wonder, though, like you said, Tom, is he lightboxing this? Like, is this
Yeah.
the equivalent of kind of a rough? It's not really the pencils, it's just, here's my
Yeah.
layout, let me throw it on the
Because I mean, it lines up. It's
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
different.
And he wants just clean pages or something.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like redraw, like he's doing like actual real drawing in the ink.
Super cool. We got a couple pages of that.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd get maximum amount of Batman in this. That we didn't have the one like super famous shot with like his cape
splash.
blowing like through his legs.
You know,
and stuff.
that's the stuff that like McFarlane was like, yes, man. You can't go back and draw like that regular cape.
I just love the title lettering. With the hatching, making it all up, it's almost like it glows.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
feels like you know, John Carpenter's The Thing or something. You know, like that kind of illuminated lettering.
All these powerful like camera angles.
Low angles. Make that monster look huge.
Look at that drapery. Jesus.
There's a way to make like
We're
your
in
hand
curtains.
pop in the foreground, just like go all black behind it. Yeah,
Gotta go Lovecraftian, man. That bubblegum monster. And this is like a sign of things to come because he will push this kind of visual.
Yeah, like,
it's in that Spider-Man comic.
Yeah. the
he's
whole
made
thing.
like whole, you know, images that are like that language, that visual language.
It's funny. It feels like this is your special effects in Hollywood for a decade. They had some method of making that type of creature. Look at how cut up all the pages are. You know, like you look at like the borders of these things, and somebody's hacking these pages apart. You know?
Yeah. They would just do that at the printer, man. Somebody said that like this tape might not necessarily be just the artist. Like you to make your signatures, you put it down like that, and just to get them up off the platter, just slice them. But being like one of those guys like in the print print house and you're seeing this all day, you get desensitized to this, that you could just hit it with a box cutter and shit. You lost your soul, man.
I'll say.
So this is like a Frazetta riff.
Yeah, he was all about the Flegels, man. Like the Krenkel, Al Williamson kind of backgrounds and stuff.
What a cool, like the reflection in the bog.
Yeah, with some bubbles. Reflection of our little alien guy up there.
Got this like anguished look on his face.
Look at all those uvulas, man. It's so disgusting. Jesus, these pages are vintage.
It makes me wonder about the books that are clearly jobber type books, and Vince Colletta I'm a defender of, but you know, like he's known for putting those books together fast. If you're an editor, like it'd be weird to be getting those kind of books and then seeing stuff like this come in at the same time. Like so hard to make sense of it. You just have to say this is you can't find a team worth of people that do this. Like you just got lucky, enjoy it while it lasts, and here comes the next, you know, standard average comic.
Wrightson, you're not going to make it in comics. You're too slow.
Look at this stuff, man.
Yeah,
I mean, this is another
arcane.
page just like that sign of future Frankenstein.
Yeah, it's a stunning page.
This is always like
Doesn't look like he's wrestling with a deadline on this page.
when you're learning about lighting and you're trying to figure that stuff out, it's not like smooth gradient. Like sometimes when the light is shining, the darkest part is where the light and the fade meet, you know? And then there's like double lighting where it's like kind of just reflecting off of grass a little bit, and the darkest part is not the complete under part.
Right.
It's sort of in the middle.
Yeah, because there's some light from the grass, like you said.
This is just, I'm in love with this panel.
Yeah. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I think I copied that in a comic.
I just know that a lot of people got this on his tattoos. I know it.
Wow.
Very much Ghastly Graham Ingalls. You could see Haunt of Fear covers that use this exact approach with tombstones. You ready?
Let's see it.
I mean, none of these even look like they're dashed out that quick. It's branches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, fucking make some branches, but they still look like there's so much care and things in that.
How much is this original worth?
It's 5 figures for sure, probably approaching 6.
I would think so. I mean, that's the iconic imagery, right?
One of them.
And oversized like that, phenomenal. This is interesting.
He does good color work, you know. We've seen many examples. It's not always Michelle coloring his stuff, but, you know, he would rock the house. It's not the last of our 2-page spreads. In time for the season of the witch.
That's great. Look at the shadow and stuff.
Fuck yeah,
That's
man.
so cool.
Fuck yeah.
Wonder what that was for.
Probably like a House of Mystery or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking these are like the reprints.
Yeah. The on the Baxter paper. You're right. That is what it is, man. That's how I have these comics.
too.
Yeah, me too.
That's-
I
yeah.
have like maybe 1 or 2 of the originals, but the rest are in there.
That's a really nice piece.
Look
with
at all
the
these
fine lines, and then your bigger coming in with your bigger marks.
I feel like this is like textures that Al Williamson invented.
We were talking about Wrightson and Ronin, Miller's, and like I'm seeing a lot of like, you know, Ronin-y kind of.
Even
patching.
the background stuff, like these little tiny bits
yeah.
of rubble, they're inked in yet another way.
Art Adams steals this for like smoky background texture to this day.
I really like this effect. This is one I'm going to steal. So thank you, Mr. Wrightson. But like whenever you're having an illuminated object like that moon, there's no outline.
Right.
You know, your lines are just going up approximately to it.
As these pages went on, you got less and less holding lines
Yeah.
and more just like things made out of like shadows and texture.
These ought to be out of control.
Alfred Hitchcock getting attacked by zombies. There it
Now
is.
that's the iconic.
Yeah.
Louise Simonson, Louise Jones at the time posed for this one right here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, all of the ink washes.
I think, don't quote me, Kayfabers will say something, but I think her sibling is Jeffrey Catherine Jones. She's Louise Jones. They shared the studio. I think That's the deal.
Oh, I would think that would be known if that was.
I think it is known, but I'm not 100%. I'm not a million % confident.
It
in my
makes sense if
predictions.
that's reference. You know, like
That
you
is
have
her.
somebody posing there because like the hands are so good. I don't know that you make that stuff up.
The light there, like it's very exceptional stuff. And she was, man, we're gonna have to get a shoot interview with her. She was the editor of Warren.
Yeah.
Bringing all these motherfuckers in. She brought Bernie Wrightson in, you know?
And again, you don't look at that and say, oh, there's, you know, a photo reference that, like, he makes it his own,
It's
too.
totally Wrightson
Yeah.
flavor.
It's gorgeous too. The lighting on the hair is just immaculate. That white kind of halo around the edge.
And, you know, those covers, they would do a little extra. So you know, he's ink wash, and they can turn that into dot, you know, turn it into a photostat, put a screen so that you get the black dots.
This is beautiful and again very iconic. And you look close and look at how like just raw that is.
Yeah.
It almost looks like he put that together pretty quick.
Yeah. And then
So powerful.
some cool dry brush and stuff here. Getting this like organic matter is just so tough. I think it requires the brush, and I think you got to have a little chaos, you know. But he just doesn't seem like that guy to allow himself to be very chaotic.
I do love seeing the sketches.
Look at how he builds that figure, dude, and what it turns into. You know, you actually hack the perspective for the thing for real, and then cut in, and and be an artist about it. This is like one of those amazing, like Frank Frazetta kind of
Totally
poses.
Frazetta.
You imagine like the axe or something on Conan the Destroyer. That's
I think
a
that
memorable one.
was used on one of those reprints. One of the Roots Over.
It is
Saga.
the OG. So
Yeah, that's one of the old issues I
yeah, I have
actually
this issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I guess because it's later in the run.
Yeah, because its popularity was like known. Wow. Look at this shit. How does an imagination come up with this gross shit?
What kind of diseased mind?
Look at this, man. Go ask a Zoomer what that is. Feels vaguely Filipino. This stuff, like Alcala inked him or something. Luxuriating the glutes.
Great bubble. Look how much action's going on around that bubble.
Yeah, man. It's showing
Or
the
beaker.
translucentness. Oh yeah, it's an Erlenmeyer flask. Thank you very much.
There's your fat man. They like that enough to use it a couple times. That's a good image.
So nice. You got to use it twice.
Those figures that are coming in on him are pretty menacing.
Then you start to see this stuff, and you think about like the Kelly Jones and those guys that would Sam Keith, who would be working on Swamp Thing. I mean, on Sandman.
Yeah, and I think that was like a Sandman. That was like
That's Cain or Abel.
Abel, yeah.
The one that dies all
Abel,
the time.
yeah.
What is this, like a Metal
Inferior
Man?
5?
Yeah,
Maybe
it's the Metal Man, yeah. What's he doing slumming?
This just looks like some fanzine type shit. It's amazing how many DC books are out there that I just never seen or heard of.
That's why they were heading for an implosion.
I was gonna say equally ridiculous that Kong the Untamed is something nobody could top that. That's the thing that you're releasing.
Yeah. Always interesting to see the white media, like the white zips, and how they're used. Neil Adams used them to amazing effect by pushing the backgrounds back real far.
It definitely stands out when you see it.
There's Kane. Look at how he's building that wrist, like so perfectly. You know, like this guy knows anatomy. He knows what's underneath that skin, and is just like letting you know how all these things connect together.
Showing off his light skills. Those cobwebs are really impressive to me. Almost nothing there.
Yeah. There go the first brothers.
That feels so much out of an EC. You know, like the origin of.
Yeah. Kira Creeper is
Yes.
Enoch.
Doesn't it feel like that a little bit?
Well, I mean, yeah, they definitely want that, you know, having these like horror hosts and stuff.
There's your great use of spotting blacks. You know, like with all the cross hatching and stuff like that is such a flat black to cut in there.
Yeah, and it's flows into here too. It's not
Yeah.
just like isolated.
Now we're getting into like some of like the earliest stuff. coming off of the Warren books, which he really, really excelled. He did some amazing stuff in those Warren books.
Well, I guess
get your hands on this creepy collection that Dark Horse put out, man. That collects like all the stories, and you see this dude fully going for it, man.
Warren really brought the best out of a lot of artists.
Yeah, like.
By the way, good luck getting your hands on this one.
They must have paid more or something, man, because the DC work just didn't have the same resonance.
It is like, what great training to come from like this pure like black and white magazine, a little bit larger, and then bringing that into like your standard comic, and it just looks like $1 million.
I wonder how important competition is. We always think of like EC as this collective of all these different guys that top of their game and trying to outdo each other. And then you get to Warren and you have kind of a similar thing. Like there's a bunch of dudes that did maybe their A-list work there. So again, competitive. And then you go to DC and it's like, get the book in on time.
Yeah.
Look at this crazy stuff, man. I've never seen hole punches, and I wonder if that was at the print facility, like, some pegs to put the art on to try to keep the pages straight up and down when getting printed. But if it was, then why would you need to cut the artwork to get it out of its position? I've just never seen hole punched pages before. That lighting, man. That's that lighting he's going to bring to Frankenstein when the time goes. And it's just like foggy, like...
Yeah, like it takes on more of a character than just, light or air. It's like, pea soup.
Right. And still elements of cartooniness in his work. This is a guy who collaborated with Von Baudet on strips.
Man, there's so much happening on this page. Like the amazing lighting on faces, but like this panel alone, look at all the different textures he's pulling out. Even stuff that you wouldn't have to do, like the base of that stand under the bird, all the lighting in the background.
And look at the gravity of that gear, man. That's like some 1990s rap clothes. Look at the tears, dude.
That's a lot of tears.
You could imagine Frazetta pages that have this level. It's Alex Raymond.
This is from Plop.
Yeah, well, you saw those tears, right? That was a joke. That was just jokes.
Yep.
Playing with the pen. We didn't really see him do that much.
Yeah, this like not quite prime time stuff is kind of fun to look at too.
Yeah, like this is the stuff that's inspirational to me because we've seen such
where he went.
Ornate stuff. It's like just put in a couple thousand more hours and really like be hard on yourself.
That rope ladder is another good example of the weight.
Yeah, you feel it, man.
I feel like there are all these different artists that I look at for different things, right? Composition, Alex Toth, maybe storytelling, Romita Jr., whoever. The stuff that I like about Wrightson is this ornamental quality, and in a weird way, earlier might display more of it than mature. Like when you get to mature, you're not necessarily experimenting. You've kind of figured out the methods that work. But I like all the methods in his work.
Yeah,
and it does showcase it well in this collection.
Duotone page with organic lines instead of like the mechanical parallels.
Don't see those a lot.
So is this almost kind of like a precursor to
Looks
the
like
precursor of
it's
Swamp
precursor
Thing?
to the precursor.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Kaluta.
Wow, there's like Steve Ditko in that.
Yeah.
There is. There's a lot of Frazetta in there too.
Yeah, Steve Ditko's jealous of those hands.
Yeah, he is. Doesn't that remind you so much of some of the Frazetta?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe the Crankle gang.
He had those same four those Frazetta painting books that we have, man. Abracadoom.
More of those hole punches in the pages.
Yeah. Spectre comics. I didn't even know he did Spectre.
Yeah, I didn't either. it's a good fit, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, here's your precursor.
Is that a color guide? Was he doing? Would he have been doing color guides?
Looks like it might be a color guide for like a reprint of it, or
Oh, maybe.
Who knows?
Whenever they switch to that Baxter paper,
Yeah, but that's gotta be Wheezy too, then, man.
looks like it.
it is funny, like reading so many of like the Alan Moore Swamp Things, and then Wrightson's Swamp Thing looks almost streamlined.
It does, yeah. Like when you see like the Dave Gibbons submission pages and stuff, where it's like, you don't see any moss or anything, man. Like, give me Toddlebin and Bissett any day with little mushrooms and flies and frogs
Yeah,
and
like
shit jumping
leaves
out.
resting on
The
it.
one thing you do see though is this kind of line work. It's real interesting to think of Toddlebin
Yeah.
after looking at some of the more elaborate line work.
It's true.
Well, I mean, Wrightson kind of like with this, like he creates an icon.
Yeah.
You know.
This feels like that famous like Jack Davis Frankenstein
Yeah.
Warren 6-foot poster.
It's very sinewy hands.
Yeah.
Like
I love
like
that
my
shit.
grandfather's hands or something.
Little
Where the
witch
knuckles are a
hands.
little swollen up.
Yeah.
Man, you talk about Kelly Jones.
Yeah, right?
It's hard to imagine Kelly Jones without that image.
You're right, man.
And I say that as a fan of Kelly Jones.
Oh, there's that famous
Batman 400. I mean, Superman 400 image.
looks super cool in the original.
Quite a bit different here than
Yeah.
the printed version.
Like, just like look at the attention to detail, like underneath the fingernails to sell you on the fat pad.
When's
and
he
the
doing
fingers.
Frankenstein? Like he's got to be.
It's before.
It's before this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like seeing some of the light around those fingernails really feels like lessons learned.
He worked on that for a long time. You know that Frankenstein thing? Is this like Batman the Cult?
That's pretty cool. I dig that as like a standalone, an ad.
Yeah,
awesome.
I didn't know he did that ad. I assumed
I-
it was just Kaluta, because Kaluta did the comic. But
Yeah, I don't think I ever seen this.
I don't either.
yeah, I've seen it in some old comics.
Give me this book, man. Swamp Thing versus the Dinosaurs. I fuck with that one time. Look at that. Like that's just a study of a hand. Like, how do you translate that to line?
You just need a
I
bunch
guess
of
you gotta
lines.
do this
You just
kind
need
of
a bunch of
thing.
lines there, Ed. Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, it is.
Wonder when that's done. It feels like you're incorporating some of the elements of the Swamp Thing.
Yeah, that feels
later
way
stuff.
Yeah,
later.
right.
There's our guy, man. Young, handsome, strapping dude. Man, he kind of looks like his drawings a little bit.
He definitely grew into his drawing.
He looks a little bit like a Frazetta drawing.
Yeah,
There.
he looks in his youth he looks like Frazetta, but towards the end he did kind of get the eyebrows that his villains have.
Right? Yeah.
So I don't know if he was drawing his grandfather.
I have to pluck mine, man, or else my shits would grow that way. The Harvey P course. And we end on the shadow. Wasn't it always weird that the shadow, one of his things is when he turns to the shadow, he just gets a honker.
Yeah,
He's Alec Baldwin, but
Right.
when he's the shadow, he grows a honker.
yes, yeah. I didn't know that until the Alec Baldwin one. I don't know if that was part of the radio play or whatever. My nose, what's happening?
It's the holiday season. We're in the holiday spirit for Halloween. The Bernie Wrightson Artifact Edition. What do you think, Phyllis?
Yeah, I would recommend the Halloween playlist too for people watching this who want to watch more videos that focus on some good horror comics and horror comic artists. Check out the Halloween playlist.
Super cool, man. Kayfabers, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. We'll notify you when new vids are available. What's out there, Jimmy?
Join me on patreon.com/JimRugg. Download out of print zines and mini comics. Check out my original art, sketches, script, and process there. See how I make the comics I make, like Plain Jane's, Street Angel, Octobriana, and more at patreon.com/JimRugg.
Read Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. Fantastic Four Grand Design. Keep your eyes out for news of my mystery project. And check out my YouTube channel, Total Recall Show.
Red Room, the Antisocial Network trade paperback in stores November 9th. Get it at your local comic shops. Order heavy on these paperbacks, man, because Amazon bought up most of our print run, a whole lot of it. So if you can't find the comic when it comes out, if you don't see it in the wild, if you didn't pre-order from Fantagraphics, go to Amazon, scoop it up. It'll be available that way. And I'm serializing the next round of Red Room comics to begin on my Patreon, patreon.com/edpiskor, and all those links are in my link tree in the description below this video.
Subscribe to the Cartoonist Kayfabe e-newsletter at the links below this video. You can also find Cartoonist Kayfabe t-shirts and merchandise at the links below this video.
Given those marching orders, Jimmy, we're going to be on our way.
Make more comics.